Hello and welcome to Teaching My Cat to Read, the very serious book review podcast. I'm Eli.
I'm Em.
And I'm Lottie.
Hey!
We can fix that in the edit,
You
it's
planned
fine.
that out beforehand.
Sorry. And I'm Lottie. And we also have...
Ro. I'm Ro.
And this week we're discussing everything about Harrow the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir.
I vote we don't take that out. I vote we leave that in.
I hope we leave it. So, this book, second book in the Lock Team series, we did Gideon the Ninth. We loved it very much. We decided we need to do book 2. If you have found our podcast and you're like, how do we start off our podcast? We start with a terrible summary. So, something which captures the essence of the book, but out of context is kind of funny. So mine would be deeply confused, lost the plot, 10 out of 10 would read again, brackets with the wiki.
I think you have to read it again.
Yeah, I do think you have to.
I think this is my third time reading it, and I'm only now starting to pick up on some stuff that's some of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, this is like my 4th or 5th time, and I think I could now say I think I have a reasonable handle on the main plot beats. The side plots and all that, no.
This book is big on sort of like negative space, you know? You really have to work to figure out what is going on in amongst all the stuff that you're not getting told.
Yeah. I mean, my terrible summary was, Alicta, she's supposed to be dead. Because, you know, we've got to emperor.
I mean, classic Lictor, I barely know her.
Yeah, I have that written down as well.
Yeah.
That or tragic find and replace incident, multiple deaths and at least one lobotomy.
Mine would be like, do-it-yourself lobotomies. It's free and easy. It's not good or fun, but it is free and easy.
It's a beautiful day on the Mithraeum and you are a horrible necromancer.
I would like if... I did put in the notes, I said, can someone please explain what was going on in this book, because I was so confused.
No.
What was going on?
No.
Literally, I can't sum it up. I cannot. Like, the best
Do you think Tamsyn Muir would come on our podcast?
I'm just saying we have a runtime of about an hour. I don't think even she could do that.
We were discussing, are we going to need a second episode? So a second episode has hit the podcast.
But it's the Inigo Montoya thing in Princess Bride. It's the, let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. And my sum up is basically Harrow goes on a corporate retreat where all her new co-workers try and kill her. Also, let's kill God.
And they're also all fucking, if not actually literally, then at least psychologically. And they all hate each other.
Yeah.
Oh god, what was the summary I had? It was, I don't want to join your beastly polycule.
Yes.
Oh no.
I tell you what, I think the thing that I should have done, I should have because I listened to the audiobook, I think I should have re-listened to Gideon, because I had to read the wiki, and I think, in all honesty, I really like the last third of this book. That
Once you get Gideon back in the driver's seat, basically.
I think it was like, it's sort of because it started explaining a lot of what was going on, and I ended up having to spoil myself with the wiki, because I genuinely think if I hadn't been reading this to chat about on here, I probably would have DNF'd it, which is really sad, because I really loved the last third of this book. I love it. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think I realised it's because there's a name with an A and a name with an O, but they are both pronounced A, and I got them mixed up continuously in the audiobook. And it's like Ortus and R something or other, and I didn't realise it was... Yeah, I think I kept getting them really confused of like who.
Yeah, that's really not helpful. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like, it's already
two very different dudes.
You're already getting gaslighted about what different people's names are. And then to like,
I think this might be one I have to like maybe reread a physical book. Maybe, or maybe that will.
I mean,
help.
I think it's worth it. Apart from anything else, because there are some, at least at the beginning, there's some stuff where it's like some stuff is like scratched out or in like eldritch font.
Yeah, it does do sort of playing around with typography stuff.
Yeah. But I've got to say, I think I benefited massively the first time I read this from having cultivated that I'm not here to understand things, I'm just here for a good time attitude.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the only way I think I could have got, because I started it and I was like, okay, I could tell within a chapter, I was like, if I get bogged down trying to understand everything, I'm going to make myself miserable and I'm not going to finish this book. So I had to just vibes
roll with it
the first time.
Yeah.
And then on subsequent readings, you can kind of bring out the red string and like the pins and the, Charlie Day Wall of Crazy.jpg. And,
Yeah.
For spoilers start here for anybody who has not read this book.
We've already dropped quite a big one.
We have already spoiled at least 2 massive plot points, yeah. So.
Well, sure. So a big part of what I found difficult on a first read with this, in terms of like understanding what the hell is going on, is that this book is in large part narrated by Gideon, who is living inside Harrow's head after having been after her soul having been sort of eaten by Harrow as part of the lictor will process. But what Harrow has done is go, I refuse to like consume you and turn you into fuel for me being a lictor, so I'm going to give myself a lobotomy so I don't remember doing it, and you're just going to kind of hang out in the back of my head, and neither of us will be very happy with this arrangement, but at least you won't like properly die. So Gideon's just like bouncing around in the back of Harrow's head, Harrow having no idea what's going on, having created for herself an alternate history where she brought Ortus the Ninth as her cavalier to Canaan House, and as a result has sort of, every time that she has a thought that would involve Gideon, she sort of imagines that it's Ortus instead, which is a problem because one of the other lictors is named Gideon, turns out to be the person for whom Gideon is actually named. And so there's like multiple levels of Harrow not living in the same reality that Gideon that happened in Gideon the Ninth. Plus everything is filtered through Gideon's narration of Harrow's perception, which is just like, and Harrow's also actually like has schizophrenia, like canonically according to Tamsyn Muir, and she's being haunted, and she's given herself a space lobotomy, and she's hanging out with the worst people in the universe on a haunted spaceship.
Some of whom are gaslighting her about things for kicks.
Yes, exactly. So it's insane, basically. You're trying to understand this.
Well, I think there's one thing of like, she doesn't actually lean into, because when we get Gideon back, I feel like Gideon has understood a lot less than has actually been in the narrative.
Yes.
So I think some wiggle room's been used there at least to give us a consistent narrative, which I feel like Gideon hasn't actually experienced.
Oh, she says at one point, like, it's I had to go digging if I wanted your memories. Like, some bits I'd been a lot more present for, and some bits I just had no idea what had happened.
Like, the first time I read it through, I was just like, oh, it's in like, what's the second person, whatever it is. That's just how it is. And I'm like, oh, the writing style's got some similarities to Gideon, but like, this is the second book I've read by this author. And then it's revealed that it actually is supposed to be Gideon in a way. And I'm like, oh, of course, that's why it was like that.
The line when you find that out had me full body sobbing the first time I read this. The first time I read this was like a year ago on holiday. And it's Palamedes in the river, Harrow seeing Palamedes who's bubbled himself in the river. He's not properly gone, he is dead, but like, he's gonna come back, don't worry. And and him being like, yo, what on earth is going on? Because here's Harrow, clearly with lictorial powers, and he wants her to have not eaten Gideon's soul in order to do that. And so he's like horrified, but then they end up being knocked together physically because stuff happens in the river. And we know that the sixth house has that whole thing of like, if they've actually touched an object, they can do a lot of kind of like detective work about it. And so he, having actually touched Harrow's physical body, realizes what she's done with the whole lobotomy. And where this gets rendered in the narration is, oh, you couldn't possibly have guessed what, why he suddenly looked at you with a smile and whatever. You couldn't possibly have guessed that he had seen me. And that's the first time you have a first person reference to the narrator referring to themselves in the book, and it's when you realise that it's Gideon and that she's been there all along, and I was just like, oh, what a good moment.
That was A good time. It was a good time. Also, I've got to say, on a reread, the fact that the narrator keeps editorializing about the thingy at the end of the sword. It's a pommel, by the way. It's just it's so good. Also, there's a moment really early on where the narrator uses the phrase "power up Chuck." And I'm like, we should have known. We should have known. There's no way Harrow says up Chuck. That's a Gideonism right there.
Yeah.
How did you find this with Gideon the Ninth? Because it is structured obviously very differently. Like,
it's achronological as well. Like it bounces
it jumps around quite
in time.
This one,
yes, rather than being linear, you get so you start out with like the prologue is like you have however many days before the murder of the emperor and stuff. So there's multiple timelines on top of all of this sort of indirection.
And like often Harrow will say we had explained, this had happened earlier in the day, and you'll get some, like while they're doing one thing, she's thinking about something that happened previously. So even outside of the like chapter structure of like, X days before the emperor's murder, X days before the emperor's murder, blah, 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 you get within the individual chapters, she's bouncing around as well quite a lot, which I think adds to the like
disjointedness. Yeah, I feel like with Gideon, it's very straightforwardly a kind of murder mystery type situation. Like there is a thing that's going on, and Gideon doesn't know a lot about it, and lots of the other characters do, and you sort of reread it and you go, oh, okay, I see what's happening. And then with this book, because it's so dependent on the fact that like Harrow's experience of the world does not hang together very well.
Yeah.
Gideon just doesn't understand. Harrow is having a hard time just existing. And I think that makes the experience of reading this book, like both structurally and also sort of what goes on in it, really, really different.
Yeah.
I think in hindsight, so I mean, I think I preferred Gideon because structurally it made more sense. And also as an audiobook, when you're listening to something that's, 10, 11 hours long, I have forgotten what's happened 3 chapters ago. You can't go back and refer to it.
Yeah.
So you can't go flip back and say, oh, this is 6 months. Oh, and I had 4 months.
And I was doing that so much.
I think that would have helped. But on the, I guess, in similar actually to Gideon, but more so I think with this book than in Gideon, because this is got Harrow's point of view and Harrow is a bone adept, that, I'm not really a fan of anything horror. I don't like really descriptive, gory things.
Oh boy, I'm so sorry.
There's a lot of that in this.
No, but yet I really enjoyed this book for its descriptiveness. And I think it was because it was part of Harrow's character, because she describes everything by, cartilage or different bone joints, and
the world really was hot and warm like a mouth. Which I don't know why that stuck with me, but like, ugh.
It was really, like, not vile, but like repulsive in this way that made this whole setup of necromancy. But it was more sci-fi than fantasy. But it made it more real, and because Gideon's obviously like bouncing around there as well, it kind of adds. Like Gideon is getting the, I don't know. It just it played together really well, which is I think one of the things that kept me listening to this book. Similarly to I think Jane Eyre, where I was depressed by the language was good. It made me sad. Like this language where we go, da da da, yikes, blah blah, but it was good. So. Yeah. Oh, congrats, I guess.
I think that's something that's really valuable, actually, is that it's such a inventive narrative style, and she's got, the descriptions are so, like, interesting and unique. She's got such a powerful turn of phrase that you could just skate on enjoying the language. You genuinely could, because it's so rich. And there's so much going on. I mean, all the biblical allusions.
And, like, the way that she writes character dialogue as well.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about her use of language and Mercy Morn's multiple exclamation points.
Oh yeah, that's a very good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always tell if it's Mercy talking because there's extra exclamation points. And then when shit gets real, they stop.
In the book, do they actually? So there's a bit in the audiobook where it's like she actually managed to enunciate the extra exclamation marks.
Yeah, they are in print. Yes.
But is that bit in print, or is that just what they've done to compensate?
No, it is.
Yes.
That's also in print.
They actually, they point it out. Yeah. Which I tell you what, that is the thing I think you lose in the audiobooks, because you can tell when somebody's Mercy Morn even though other people don't necessarily know it's her, because there's always the exclamation points. And secondly...
Oh, I mean, you can absolutely know it's her from the voice in the audiobooks.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, because the actress does very good voices, yeah.
She also stops using them in the final confrontation with God. There aren't any.
Yes.
To the best of my recollection. So
I would say I think you get that effect in the audiobook because the actress, like the person who's reading it, is just so good that you get that change in performance of Mercy Morn, where it's still more Mercy Morn, but she is just like she shifts. It
was very good audiobook,
that's cool.
I like how we've got this far into discussing this and we haven't really touched on the fact that God is a major character in this book and he sucks.
Because fuck him. Fuck God, honestly. Why isn't he dead yet?
He's also like the most boring of them. Like,
he really
objectively.
Is. And he doesn't get better in the next book either.
I don't know. Augustine also bores me.
Oh, you don't like Augustine? I love Augustine. He's awful.
I mean, he is awful, but it's not nearly as interesting as Mercy Morn. I'm a Mercy Morn. I support women's wrongs all the way. Like,
they're both awful in such different ways.
Yeah.
And I really love like the relationship between. So these are the two of the lictors that are still around from originally 10,000 years ago, and they have been in some sort of psychosexual committed hatred relationship for most of those 10,000 years, I think. And it's all like 10,000-year-old grudges that they're bearing, and it's so interesting, and I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know about like when did you guys? I was going to say there was something about God and like the guy being. I just found it really sort of strange how, or actually, I guess come back to the language point. Like when Harrow talks about God, and then everyone else who's been around there knocking around for ages just calls him John, and it's just I think that the distinctness between the two. I don't know if that was related to the point that you said.
Does Ianthe ever talk about him?
But like I think they do. I mean, maybe this is me misremembering the audiobook, but I feel like there was a distinctness between like Harrow revering this guy who's an arsehole who I managed to like in my wiki trying to understand what the hell was going on, spoiled myself, but in like that's fine.
Because I think Gideon the First is basically the only other lictor that like is still completely loyal to God, and even he like calls him John. Although, does he call him John, or does
Pyrrha call him John?
It's difficult to tell, but also like he still like went behind Jod's back to like conspire with the enemy. Like he doesn't.
Yes,
I
he
think
still had a fling
this,
with Wade.
I think this is a fundamental thing of like, if anything, Ianthe kind of being the I will mimic all of my big siblings kind of energy, and instantly jumping to John is the weird thing, given that they've been raised in the 10,000-year cult of this guy. Whereas obviously the original lictors are kind of have been there from the start,
tenure.
and it's a very different kind of
the shine's worn
dynamic.
off. Yeah.
Also, like the shine probably wasn't as shiny to start with. Like you get the impression he's always sort of put himself on a pedestal, but to a certain extent not with that original group in the same way. Like he's specifically tried to cultivate the idea to them that they're the in-group and that they're special to him for various reasons, you know, cult leadery reasons,
and that they're friends and that's important.
Kind of were my friends in a past life that I wiped your memories of reasons.
Cash like. But yeah, that's very like, I'm not. Please don't think of me as your boss. I'm your friend.
Oh,
I'm
massive,
your friend.
massive that energy. Yeah.
And that makes for a bad boss and a bad friend.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And a bad dad figure.
Yeah. Oh my god. He's so awful on so many levels. I can't. I'm not fucking dead. I'm dad. I just.
Nobody finds that funny except for him.
I love hate it. I love hate it.
Yeah. It's such a perfectly drawn character, you know.
And the thing is, like, that was the moment where I understood Mercy Morn's whole rant about the jail filled with acid.
Yes.
I was like, she's right. She's right and she should have done it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love her so much.
Justice for Mercy Morn.
What I do like is there's the scenes between John. I don't know. What are we going to use him to refer to him?
I tell you what, I have usually would call him Jod, but I've been reading Harrow so much that her way of referring to him has infected me. So I keep calling him God, even though he doesn't deserve it.
Okay. But anyway, when Jod's talking to Harrow in the study, and she kind of has that moment, and it's the heartbreaking moment of like.
This is the first time you realise God could not understand you.
No, the other one, someone looking at you and wanting you for their own.
Yeah.
It's the thing about her parents. That one then contrasted with the later talk with Ortis, where Ortis does I was only 17, but for your whole life I've been an adult and I haven't actually been there for you, and I've watched you and Harrow suffer the whole way through, and that being... Mm-hmm. more actually meaningful and more what Harrow actually needs, even if it's not.
Because he knows her.
Yeah.
You know,
God
doesn't understand her, and he wants her to be somebody other than who she is, and he doesn't understand what makes her tick. And Ortis does, and he's been there for all of her miserable, horrible life where she was being an absolutely awful person.
And I teared up at that hug. I read the back half twice, and I cried both times. Yeah. Can we talk about the ninth relationships, actually? Because I think that's a really tasty bit of this book that we don't get as much of in Gideon. Obviously, like, you get Gideon and Harrow a fair bit, but, like, the way they relate to the rest of the house, I think is really interesting. I wondered if you guys had thoughts on that.
Like, the whole thing of, like, in parallel, the bits that we get that are kind of clear, like, a slightly easier to digest, are also sort of nonsensical, because it's like, well, why are we getting a retelling of what happened in Canaan House, but it's all weird and fucked up, and Ortis is there. And on the first read, I sort of began to doubt that anything that happened in Gideon was, like, real. I was like, okay,
that's fun.
What is happening? I was like, okay, so this... I wondered if it was a kind of Rashomon type thing where, like, there were multiple versions of something that, like, and I didn't know if...
was Gideon really that tuned out the whole time that she didn't notice, like, a corpse in a hazmat suit trying to shoot people with a shotgun? Like...
Well, also, and, like, the Ortis wasn't there, and sort of the whole, like, there was a... I love the phrasing of it. There was a girl you'd grown up with who was your same age, but she'd died before you were born. So how did you grow up together?
Yeah. That really got me. Yeah.
It's where it wasn't quite papered over correctly,
Exactly. Yeah, and so you actually get Ortis as a real character instead of a sort of flat, two-dimensional, the person that he is in Gideon. Because Gideon doesn't care about him.
I think that was the other reason that kind of bits near the end hit me, because, like, it took me so long to work out what was going on with, like, the second version of Canaan House. Even, like, when the AUs were happening, I was like, I still don't really know what's happening, etc., etc. And I was mostly just happy that the Fifth House were back. I was like, Abigail Penn,
I love them
I haven't
much.
lost you forever.
And the bit that she says when she's like, oh, Harrow, I assumed that you'd done this on purpose because you needed us.
Yeah.
And Harrow's like, I have no idea what's happening, or, you know, she has no idea that she's doing it. She doesn't even know what's happening. But that she's, like, created a bubble in the river.
But something in the grain of your soul said, I need Abigail Penn. And just...
Oh, don't we all?
Yeah.
And, like, that she did it so early that even Ortis, who was already dead by the time they got to Canaan House, was in there.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing that I wasn't sure about for the longest, was, like, as I was kind of working out what was going on, I was like, well, is Ortis actually real? Like, that he was the one that I had a big question about, because, like, everyone else had very much been in, like, a very small specific area when they died, and it's like, how did the rules of this work? She can make up so much. Maybe Ortis is just a... But then it becomes pretty clear later on.
Well, I also wonder if, like, his ghost was particularly unwilling to... Like, he was going to be a revenant anyway. You know, because of who he was as a person, he felt like he had unfinished business and so on. Like, I wonder if giant
unfinished poem that we're going to use.
Right, I wonder if he was still. I wonder if he was hanging around and, like, got pulled into this bubble after he was dead.
Yeah, I guess there might also just be a thing of, like, you might be in the river for some extent for some time anyway, and physical distance versus like say emotional distance of someone that you have grown up with and been that close to,
that's a good
might be
point,
easier to call to. Yeah,
I'm kind of tempted to go back and reread Gideon because I did reread it before rereading Harrow this time, but with an eye to while people are dying in Canaan House, like Abigail and Magnus are in the bubble for the back half of Gideon.
Yeah.
Right? And you're
Are
reading
they?
Gideon and well, if Harrow creates the bubble, I don't know actually. Yeah, does it extend
no,
backwards in time?
assumed
Because
I assumed
there's a good few days in between the deaths of the fifth and
I think we have to discard
one we can think that Harrow would have created the bubble.
I think we have to discard the time being relevant because they do get Matthias Nonius back, and that was like 500 years ago.
Yeah, there's some
That's
extent
true.
of
Okay,
you
never mind.
stay in the river, like, and there are different
never
levels
mind.
of the river and stuff, and
There's like the river. The river is polluted because nobody gets to leave. They should, but nobody gets to. Like, at least that was the vibe I sort of got from the way Abigail was talking about, like the river beyond, and the fact that something's wrong with the river as they know it, and the way it's always described as being like gross and full of like guck made me think.
Oh yeah, Em and I have some theories about this that's probably too spoilery to discuss until we do Nona.
Yes,
but
river shit. What is it? But yeah, one of the things I want to talk about while we're on the parallel narrative, the second Canaan House Redux. I really enjoyed how you got these different perspectives on stuff that happened in Gideon, both from it happening from Harrow's perspective, but also like Ortus not doing what Gideon did. So like, Ortus doesn't notice how good the skeletons are. Gideon immediately twigs that the skeletons are freaky good, right? And Ortus just doesn't notice at all. And then there's the Harrow wondered if she should have made Ortus take a vow of silence, but only a particularly idiotic cavalier would have kept that up. Which was just chef's kiss, incredible. Love that. She's flexing on Gideon and she doesn't even remember her. It's great.
Yeah, I think there was, especially at the beginning, there was that whole bit where, like, because Gideon doesn't listen to teacher's speech when they arrive, and then you get this whole speech, and you're like, that doesn't seem to make sense from what I remember. But Gideon didn't actually tell me. So, like, what's going? Oh, what were your theories for the sleeper? Because I thought the sleeper was Gideon for so long.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I mean, Gideon's sword's in there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, you're right.
I didn't understand it. Yeah.
I was completely confused. To be honest, I think that's. I think again, I think I need to read this book and skim read it. But I didn't even think about who the sleeper was. It was somebody in a coffin.
I thought that was supposed to be like the red herring that I was like pretty convinced by was the sleeper, because someone is sleeping in, because when you start to work out that maybe this is something to do with Harrow's mind, like maybe this is a dream or a delusion or something, you're like, okay, so something is sleeping in Harrow's mind, and if it wakes up she'll die. Like, okay, that's probably,
that's a really good point.
That's probably the body, isn't it? Yeah.
And I mean, they've also. Oh no, it's probably Gideon.
Well, it's probably Gideon, but then it's not the body, and then it's not Gideon either. It's secret third option.
Yeah, I think
a secret third option that we still don't kind of know a lot about until Nona. Actually, rereading Harrow, I'm just like you still. It isn't necessarily that clear what her relationship is to Gideon or anybody else. I
think you get quite a big info dump right at the end that you probably have to, like, because you get some of her interrogation by Jod, and then you get some reveals about who she is. So if you read those twice through, you can sort of pass it together.
Yes, but you do have to read it twice through, you know?
Yes,
you have to really go back and go, okay, Mercy Morn and Augustine have previously seduced God to get hold of his sperm, and they were trying to make a baby that had his blood, because that's the only way to open the locked tomb. And it just so happened that Harrow was able to, because she had Gideon's blood under her fingernails because they'd been scrapping. And the whole thing about, and Harrow had half my face under her fingernails is relevant. Yeah. And it's like, oh man.
And I think the thing about Wake is that they do mention her early on, because they talk about the Blood of Eden attack. So there is this kind of, you are tangentially aware of this. There used to be this really charismatic leader of this supposed terrorist group who's been dead for a really long, like the right amount of time shall we say.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it, you know, and because in a more condensed, simpler book, I think you would have, like, you might have held on to that detail. You might have been like,
but there's so much being thrown
this
at you
is going to
constantly.
this is a surprise tool that will help us later. But there's so much else going on. How could you possibly?
Isn't one of the only times that the body speaks to tell Harrow to lie when Mercy asks how old she is?
Yes.
Yeah, there's like very few times that the body speaks.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another thing I was so confused by is like, is the body real?
Yeah.
Is the body conscious? What is the body's agenda?
Whereas I think I'd always fallen down on the side of the body is real. Like, it's not a hallucination. Like, it is a meaningful thing that's happening. Because it knows stuff that Harrow doesn't.
Yes, yeah.
She's sort of benevolently haunting Harrow. Yes,
Like,
right? Again,
so-
she tells Harrow to lie about how old she is to throw Mercy Morn off the whole, you know, could this child be related to the plot?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she warns Harrow, I can't remember which murder attempt it is, but she tells Harrow to get up and come and look at one point as well. And so she has to know that something else is going on.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the Wake thing, I don't think I don't think you can get to Wake before on a reread, but you can get something that's the sword, because Harrow is not constantly, but it comes up multiple times. Harrow is like, that sword hates me. And we're told that revenants like to hang out in objects.
Yes.
So I kind of knew the sword was important, but I couldn't.
I think
make
I thought that
jump.
Gideon was in the sword the first
Oh, that's
time round.
cool. That would have been cool.
But then, yeah, like, you know, Harrow has lobotomized herself and Gideon is no longer in her, and so Gideon's in the sword, and she's mad for some reason. And it turns out that she is mad that Harrow hasn't eaten her, which, like, parallels between that and Corona at the end of Gideon the
oh my
Ninth,
gosh, yeah.
being like, why didn't she eat me instead? You know, why did she take Babs? She could have taken me. Like, their loved ones refusing to consume them, and the ones who would have been consumed seeing that as an act of rejection rather than devotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just thought the Angry Sword was, like, partially lobotomy plus, like, leftover emotions from Gideon relationship. I didn't realise it was, like, a necromantic, actual, this thing has bad vibes pick up at all.
To be fair, I think if you've just read Gideon beforehand, Harrow mentioned the sword hating her then as well. But yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, but I think that's because they have such like a what's the word? But they have such a tense relationship in that as well.
Yes.
Like, I was just like, oh, she just hates the sword because the sword is a representation of Gideon in like a very
I wonder
strong
if
way.
that's like why Gideon, because Gideon loves her sword. She's like, I love my sword so much I can marry it. And I wonder if that's because, like, Wake is haunting the sword, and Gideon plus that sword is one of the decent ways that they have of maybe killing God. Like, that's a useful thing to exist in the world if you are somebody who wants God to die, is somebody who's got God's blood and a big fuck off sword. So, and it's not at all to do with the fact that Wake, like, incubated Gideon. Like, there's no affection there as that result.
I would want to believe that, apart from the fact that, like, Wake, I guess she is like in interrogation with Jod and doesn't necessarily know that Gideon is in Harrow's body, but like there's no indication from Wake that she cares about Gideon at all.
No, I don't think she cares about Gideon as a person. I think she cares about Gideon as a piece on the chessboard.
But like even
and that
Also,
that Gideon having a good time and finding it easy to wield that sword is a useful thing for Blood of Eden. It's a useful thing that should exist in the world if you are Blood ofEden. You want that.
I'm going to throw you
that's
guys
my
a
take, at least.
curveball. I'm going to make this even more complicated. Wake in Kithurea's body on the Mithraeum has the opportunity
that was
to
the one that
kill
completely
Harrow
confused me.
doesn't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That one took me so long to work out. I was like, why the hell is this corpse walking around?
I think it took me
is
about
she still
3
alive?
What did you say, Em? Because I missed the second half of what you said.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no, I just said she tried to kill Harrow on the Mithraeum. Well, admittedly while Gideon's piloting, but she doesn't. She has the opportunity, and we know that she hates Harrow, yeah? But she doesn't kill her. Why? I don't know. Why wouldn't she kill Harrow? She's been trying to inside her head this whole time, and then she just walks away.
Has she?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The whole point of the haunting is that she gets to subsume Harrow's body, and pilot it around like she's piloting Kithurea's
But
corpse.
that's different, right? That's I want to consume your body because it's better than the corpse one that I'm currently consuming. And explicitly means that you wouldn't want to kill her, right? You want the good body in one piece that's not suspicious.
And then, yeah, she wants to kill Harrow within the river, because if she kills her in the river, she can get her body. She doesn't want to, like, her trying to, like, gun down Harrow with the, like, machine gun is happening in the river.
And she could do that and then be like a sneaky agent, no one knows that I'm not Harrow kind of situation.
Yeah.
So that's probably
I guess
why.
there's no benefit to her killing Harrow on the Mithraeum after she's been exorcised and she's like back stuck in Kithurea. But the sword has hated Harrow this whole time. And Wake hates necromancers. Why isn't she killing
Does
Harrow?
the sword hate Harrow or does the sword hate? Does that make sense?
But then
like,
why doesn't it?
The
hate
only thing that's
Gideon?
keeping Wake going is hate of Jod and necromancy as a whole.
Like, if anyone else touched the sword, would they go, this sword hates me? You know?
Yeah.
But Harrow doesn't let other people take the sword.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole thing of, like, she's like catatonic, and then somebody comes to try and take the sword away from her, and she nearly kills them.
Also, like, so does Harrow Prime... Because Harrow Prime says don't let anybody else touch the sword, which...
Yes.
Is, like...
Not for any good... Like, doesn't tell us a reason.
That could be sentimental, or it could be there's a spooky ghost in it, and I don't want anybody to know about the spooky ghost, which...
Yeah, this is intel, and I don't want anyone else to have it.
Yeah, does Harrow Prime know that? Does Harrow Prime know that there's a ghost in there? Like, I don't know.
I wish we got more of Harrow Prime in this book.
I don't think so, because, like... So Harrow is almost back to being Harrow Prime at the end, when she's talking to Abigail and everyone. And that's the point at which Abigail says, in addition to being, like... mad, do you think you're also haunted? And Harrow does not react like, oh, yes, I know, there's been this sort, like... ghost around me my whole life kind of thing.
That's
like,
true, yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult.
We should talk about, like, Harrow as a character, because I feel like, you know, the book is named after her, and we don't get a lot of, like, you know, we get Gideon's perspective on Harrow, but as we see from this book, it's, like, quite a limited perspective. Like,
especially in the perspective that Gideon gives to us of, like, her opinion of Harrow. I think that's the thing that I didn't quite get the first time reading through Gideon, of, like, actually how complicated at the beginning of the first time reading through Gideon, of actually how complicated their relationship is.
Yeah.
Like the bit where Gideon is telling Yanthi, like, she doesn't love me, she just loves bones.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, we know that Harrow absolutely does love her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Idiot for idiot. You know?
But, like, can we talk about, like, Harrow on the Mithraeum, though? Because, like, okay, so I have a couple of points for this. Firstly, okay, the most pathetic wet cat, failed
must be so unsettling,
hallucinating, you know? wildly, refusing to let anybody take a 6-foot-tall sword that she cannot lift off of her, right? And killing everyone. She spent, like, the first chapter of the book, whenever she was either asleep, throwing up, or trying to murder anyone who came into the room, okay? And then a bunch of all-powerful saints spend the whole book trying to kill her, and just failing every single time. They eat shit every single goddamn time. And I'm just like, what must that be like? You're 10,000 years old. Like, you can kill anyone with a fucking look, you know? You want to die so desperately, and nobody will... You can't. You simply cannot. And you're told to kill this one measly little teenager, and she just keeps getting back up. I love her.
Yep.
I love the bit after she, like, explodes him with the marrow in the soup. And then you just hear Jod, like, chewing out Mercy Morn. Like, what? She can do that? What the F? Like,
what else did you miss, you know?
Yeah, and it's just obviously, like, in retrospect, because then right at the end you find out that he's the one that set Gideon to, like, either break or... either, like, snap into being a proper lictor or kill Harrow, whichever is first, he doesn't care. And presumably he's been thinking that, like, Gideon's just been very incompetent this whole time, and then he sees that and goes, "Oh, okay, maybe this was a little bit trickier than I thought."
I think because like God's been underestimating her this whole time. Like God tells her she couldn't possibly have broken into the tomb, and even when she's just exploded the Saint of Duty's rib cage, he's like, "Oh, well, you couldn't have done that because he's a lictor, and so your literal sense won't work. You can't tell where the marrow cells are or whatever." And she's like, "Well, I sectioned my own tibia for the soup, didn't I?" And it's just like...
So patronising to her.
He really is.
She's the fucking bone guy. Of course she knows this.
Yeah. And also, like, it's literally just happened. You know what I mean? He's literally still covered in the Saint of Duty's, like, fucking guts. And he's like, well, you couldn't possibly have done that because you wouldn't be able to sense the marrow. Something else must have happened, you stupid little girl. It's like...
How frequently does Jod get surprised, though, you know? How frequently does anything surprise him anymore? It's like... Yeah. Although, to be fair, you know, like... the betrayals by the other lictors is
also,
pretty much it.
He's absolutely 100% certain that there's no way that they could have opened the tomb. He doesn't think Harrow could do it. He doesn't think they could do it. And
like, if you know that your blood is the key to a ward that you really, really don't ever want opened, you'd be so careful about getting into a threesome, right?
Well, I think he might have good reason to believe that he's not particularly fertile.
Well, and also that's maybe true because there's all of the babies, all of the whatever Wake refers to them as, the dolls, all of the sort of the vessels that Mercy Morn provides in order for them to turn Jod's sperm into a baby fail, and the only way it works is Wake like doing intrauterine with herself for herself.
Also, if I remember correctly, there is very much the implication that he did not physically orgasm in that way during their first encounter.
Because they keep saying, he's like, but I didn't, but you didn't. And he's like, look, listen, you know how good Mercy is with the body, don't think about it.
But
yeah.
So maybe he was that careful. Yeah.
So I think at least in the having offspring, I think he thought he was being careful enough. And I guess theoretically in the physically bleeding, he's also been quite careful, which is probably not too difficult to do.
Also, if you get to that stage of being like good at the human body, you don't even need it to be sperm, surely. Like we can clone animals from not that.
It is. I tell you what, it has to be.
I guess they just needed to distract him more than anything.
For Wake to use it the old-fashioned way, I think you probably do have
But they weren't planning on that. That wasn't the original plan, right?
She's very good at physiology specifically. That doesn't imply I can do cell transformations with magic.
That's true.
Like, as much as that theoretically might be a thing that flesh magicians could theoretically do.
Yeah, like if all you need is the DNA, but maybe not,
Yeah.
But
I just want to share with you this one last image I have that, like, Harrow, in the dark, like, sitting on a counter in the Mithraeum, eating her plain crackers. And, like, Gideon the First comes in, just, like, gets that you get the fucking laser eyes from this goddamn feral raccoon that's sitting on the counters eating crackers. And you're like, maybe I won't try and kill her today, actually. Fuck this.
Harrow should have Tapeta Lucidum. Changed my mind.
But yes, I adore her. Also, just the line, nothing made you want to live more than somebody suggesting you should die. Like, I love her. I would kill and die for her, quite frankly. But yes, that was the extent of my Harrow feelings.
I think just very much like, I would die for you. Yes, but would you get a good night's rest for me? No, absolutely not. Like, that kind of energy. Like,
yeah.
But Lottie, I was going to say, this is probably a thing that, like, you might have an opinion on since it's not plot related, but, like, Harrow in this book compared to, like, the outside perspective we get in Gideon. Did you have any thoughts?
I mean, to be honest, like, I think this book confused me too much. I don't think I'm smart enough for this book.
Just to be clear, you've only read it once, right?
I only read it once.
Absolutely reasonable to be confused. You have to read these twice.
No, it's not. It's not an intelligence thing at all. Everybody has that experience. It is just like, it's awful.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm on the third time through,
and so I feel like I'm just quietly sitting here, like, enjoying listening to your chat because I think it's something,
as long as you're having a good time.
If you are like a first time reader of this book and you're like me going, like, I do say I did really enjoy it, but I also just didn't have a clue what the hell was going on. So I don't feel like I can really comment on, apart from like the use of language regarding Harrow. Like, I have no really strong feelings either way, because if you asked me to name 3 characters from this book that wasn't that guy John and that Mercy woman, I genuinely think I'd struggle, because I can't...
Yeah, I mean, that's 3, right?
I feel like they'd appreciate that, to be fair. I think they'd be pretty smug about that.
So, I don't know, like, I think it's a clearly, like, I say not smart enough, it's the wrong phrase, but it's something
it's a really hard book.
It's a really difficult book. I am somebody who likes chronological order. I don't like jumping around in time frames. I had a better time with the second person point of view than I did with the Raven Tower, because that I did struggle with. But I don't know if that's because I knew the twist with Gideon. Because I had to basically spoil myself to try and understand what the hell was going on. So... And I went on the internet, aka Reddit, and I think there's sort of 2 camps that are, and I think I'm falling in the camp where, like, I need to reread this book, and I don't know if it's just I struggle with the name, so I think that's possibly a dyslexic thing. Like, I need to see them written down. I think the audiobook person did a really good job. So they're all very different with the audiobook. I just had.
But that only helps when they're like speaking. Like, if they're just being referred to, it's more confusing.
So and obviously because like Harrow's fiddled around with her brain that every time Gideon's mentioned, it's replaced. And I think the other thing that really confused me is I don't understand how the lictoral process worked. I think that thing has completely passed me by. So
no, I think you just don't understand. I think you just don't know at this point, right?
You as the reader are not so really supposed to.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, for me, I think I might mention this actually about the Withers verses. Like, I like a hard magic system. I like it when it has rules, and I like when they're all explained. I don't like things being left unexplained.
This system, I think, is hard magic, but you just don't know much of it. You know?
And I think that's what I struggle with. Like, I mean, I bang on about Brand Sanson a lot, but he's like, he has rules, it's explained, and there are limits to it, so I can kind of visualise it a bit better.
Yeah. The problem with Harrow is also you have a very complex hard magic system that is not explicitly laid out at any point in sort of a nice, friendly way. And
the closest you get is the appendices.
Like, the most important bit, like the lictorial process, like the thing that we're talking about, is explicitly
shrouded in mystery,
and also probably being done wrong by like 90% of the characters. I think that's in this book, right? Like, that's like the big twist.
I think that's the other thing. It's like, it was saying, what's perfect, what's imperfect. I was like, well, I don't really understand the process.
The jury's still out on that, actually.
It sounds like if there's appendices in the book, I think that's one of those things where you lose as an audiobook listener, which is a bit...
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, they're really useful.
Oh, wait, did it...
It doesn't have appendices. Or if it does, it's obviously at the end of the book. Like, it's not something you can refer to while you're listening. Like, if there was a PDF that I could read while I was listening, and I think that's why I went on the wiki and ended up having to spoil myself to try and understand what was going on. So, in summary... I don't think I can really comment on Harrow's character apart from, like, I think she's it's a very interesting character. I like how it contrasts with Gideon. Like, you know, when you said when she put her bone in the soup, I thought, oh, that's horrible, but also, like, very smart.
It's cool as hell.
And so I'd be kind of interested, because I've got Nona on audiobook.
I think that does help. Honestly,
I'm hoping that will be, if that is in chronological order, it might help me a bit more.
It is, I think, but it follows 2 different things. So half of it is a chronological story with a narrator who doesn't know a lot about what's going on, but in a different way. And the other half of it, interleaved, is a series of conversations that are kind of happening and you're not quite sure where, but that give you a lot of backstory.
Yeah, but I think they're roughly in chronological order, even if they're a bit kind of
okay, so I think
bitty.
I'll probably have a better better go to, which is it's a bit I think it's one of those things where when you compare, like, is audiobook the same as reading a book, I think it's one of those things to highlight that in this case I don't think it is, because I think I've come away with a very different like view of this. Like, I feel like this is a book I would need to physically read to flick back and forth in. And
the thing about, like, sitting and reading it is, you know, you read something that doesn't seem to make sense and you can stop and think about it without having to hit pause.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, you have to be like really, in order for that to work as an audiobook, I feel like you have to be hovering with your finger over the pause button.
Yeah.
I think what I would say is that you definitely should either read or listen to it a second time through. So I think fundamentally any first experience with one of these Locktoon books is very different to a reread. Yeah. And then like it can be fun to reread them more times and in light of later books. But fundamentally you kind of need to read it through twice to even kind of get a full scope of one book.
I think that's the thing, is like, I think that's one of the things I saw online, is that you need to read it twice, because I think this is the kind of book I really enjoyed, Gideon the Ninth, so I kind of know that I would enjoy this.
You're invested.
I spoiled myself and still listen. I listened to the whole book fine. But I feel like I can't really say much because I got a clue what the hell was going on, apart from, you know, we find out who Gideon's parents are, which was slightly confusing. And then I'm still like, I spoiled myself for, like, what the Locktoon is, person.
Oh, okay, cool. We can talk about her being a
well, but is she? I don't know if she was a... Is she... Oh, no, she would be.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
It depends what means.
And I think that's, like, something that would be really handy, like, if there was a PDF, or, like, say, the appendices where it says... So for example, like, in Wheel of Time, I remember when I read these books, in the back it had, like, a glossary of all the different worlds and where they were and what they're... So you could kind of keep track. And I remember when I first read those books, I would keep flicking to the appendices, the glossary, to remind myself of things. And I feel like that's what I kind of wanted to do, but you can't do it on audio.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like... So I, partially inspired by the fact that there are, like... there's like a cast list at the front of these novels. I wonder if there's kind of an attitude of taking them less like sci-fi novels or fantasy novels and a bit more like a play. And I think one thing, especially like when you go see something in the theatre, you can't pause it, you can't flick back, you just kind of have to go with it and trust it. And if you've missed something, you've missed something, and you just have to keep going. And I think especially when you first read these books, you just have to take that attitude. Or at least I have to, because I can't. Yeah. If I started actually trying to understand things, there are some things that you just can't at that point in the narrative understand, and I'd get myself in knots.
I just want to pick up on that play thing, because I think that's really, particularly this one, because we have the whole Abigail saying that what's going on in the river is more like a play than a novel, because the actors can act out, right?
It's Harrow trying to make sense of the world that she's constructed for herself.
Oh, do you want my, like, absolutely wild, definitely not true theory?
Yes.
The whole new world is just one big bubble that God made, and all of its rules are arbitrary because he wants them that way.
I mean,
I don't think this is actually... I think you can poke holes in my bubble theory.
I tell you what, it's tasty as hell, though.
Yeah.
Like, and I tell you what, it would potentially explain some inconsistencies. I'm thinking about... So, Eli has already heard me fucking bang on about this, like, for days now, probably. But... They keep mentioning that when God dies, the sun will die, right? Dominicus. And we're working on the basis that that's our sun, right? Multiple people tell us it will turn into a black hole when it dies. Our sun is not massive enough to turn into a black hole.
Become a black hole.
So, like, is that plot relevant, or is it just a fun metaphor?
So, Oprah voice, what is the truth? You know?
Yeah, did God do something else to the sun? Which is such a fucking conspiracy theorist tinfoil hat thing to say. Is it significant, or is it just it's a fun metaphor for, like, that's the way stars die, you know? Also, why haven't they found any aliens?
Have they? Is it confirmed that they... Because I think I for a while wasn't sure if, because of the other... because of the houses people, I wasn't sure if those people are all people. As it are they all human or are they aliens? But I think they seem to all be humans. Everything that we found.
I'd assumed that they were human because Blood of Eden's human, and they're
Except
not
we
house.
do meet a beast in Nona who is not like a beast that we know from Earth. Although it was sort of.
See, that one I would say, I think that's a mutation caused by it being a flipped planet. I think.
Sure. Okay.
That would be my gut response there, but they don't seem to have found any aliens.
Because I never understood that in Nona. I was just like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Well, I think in Harrow there are she goes to planets where there are life forms that are not human, but they're all animal level, right?
Yeah.
That's the
they have the planets have biospheres so that they can have a soul, but they don't have conscious life.
But it's just really interesting to me as a statement about the cosmos.
Although, hang on, what's going on when the cohort go and fight on planets and turn them into who are they fighting?
That's non-house humans.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Which I think at this point you don't fully have an explanation for, but there are humans who are non-house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my fun tinfoil hat thing. Is what the fuck did God do to the sun?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I was going to say this is a good book potentially for fun questions.
Is it going to turn out to be some kind of pun? And it's what did God do to the son? Or he made him be crucified or something. You know?
I mean, there's a lot of
and at some point we get the Holy Ghost.
Bible stuff.
I mean, I'm sure whatever it is, Jod has a joke to go along with it.
Yeah. I'm going to say there were a lot of Bible references that I picked up on this time around. When Mercy kills God, she says, "It is finished," in a very
Yeah.
And Harrow, when she remembers Gideon in the bubble, is talking about how, in terms of relative time, it's only her third day in a world without Gideon.
Yeah.
And what happens on the third day? Gideon comes back in her body. So she's the son of God and she rises from the fucking dead. But there were a lot of places where I went, oh, I recognize this. There's a resonance here. And it was biblical rather than memes this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are also a lot of memes. And
there's so many
I don't know if...
None house with left grief!
It's so stupid and it doesn't even make sense. It's such a bad joke. It
doesn't make it sense.
It's the worst thing.
But then also, Gideon gets that from her dad. Because,
Gideon automatically thinks puns is funny. Gideon,
jail some mother, Gideon.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's the one that I'm just oh.
Also, Yanthi, I think in the very first chapter says, well, I tried and therefore no one should criticize me.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's her motto the whole way.
I love that was just so in character for her.
I do like the idea that some of these things have just survived for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Instead of the Institute for Long-Term Nuclear Waste Storage coming up with things that could survive for 10,000 years as memes.
Yeah. Why aren't there any glowing cats in this universe? It's been 10,000 years. We should have songs about the glowing cats.
We don't really... I mean, until Nona, when we meet some people who are not house people, we don't really have any sort of thing about, are there pets? You know?
Oh, I tell you what, that's the other thing, of course, is that, we know that Blood of Eden names people based on...
fragments of cultural...
older...
So how do you think that works? Do you think that is, do you think that's a birth name, or do you think that's an acquired name? Do you think you get extra bits?
They acquire them over time, don't they? You take names from people that you respect and things, I think.
Ah, okay. This is probably more of a Nona conversation, to be honest, because all we've got is, so far, Wake, yeah.
I'm just thinking about God and Commander Wake Me Up Inside.
You got to give him that one.
I did enjoy spotting that. I was like, yes.
We meet characters in Nona or we encounter characters in Nona who did not start life as Blood of Eden people and then acquire Blood of Eden style names.
Yeah.
So that must be a thing that you can do as an adult.
Do they all have... is it Evanescence? Do they all have Evanescence?
No. And also her proper name is not Wake Me Up Inside. It's Awake something.
Awake remembrance of these valiant dead.
But that's just God being a piece of shit to her in a way that nobody else understands.
It's Shakespeare and the New Zealand national anthem, and
I think so.
There's a couple of other. Was it a Slim Shady song or something?
It's Whoops There Goes Gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah. after I read Harrow for the first time, I did sit down and yell with Em about it before reading it again. Or, like, I think maybe I immediately tried to start rereading it. But, like, definitely books that benefit from, like, bouncing ideas off each other and trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
This is a series that has, like, the opposite problem to Discworld, where Discworld is, like, it doesn't look like there's a logical reading order and you have to find a guide. This is, like, it looks like there should be a logical reading order, but actually the reading order is Gideon, then Harrow, then Gideon, then Harrow, and then Nona, and then Gideon, then Harrow, then Nona. Like, you can't go linearly. It does not work.
And then you've got all the little extra stories that happen afterwards, like the Library of Dr. Sex, and the Battle in the Centre of the Mind. That's the bit after Nona, and like As Yet
I don't
Unsent.
think I've read any of those.
They are appendices to the paperbacks. I think Dr. Sex is available online. It's not a part of any of the books.
I think all the shorts are available online, so you can get the Pal Yanthe fight.
Yes, but that doesn't make sense until after Nona.
Yeah. And
fantastic.
As Yet Unsent, I think, is quite useful because it does clarify some of the, like, what Mercy's doing a little bit, and like why Cam and Judith and Corona can just show up in the middle of Nona and be like in the middle of Harrow, and just be like, hey, we have a skull. Please check out this skull for me real quick.
Yes.
Do we want to do any of the classics like mansplain, manipulate, male wife, just to wrap us up a little bit, or?
I mean, Jod is all of them except, well, is he kind of male wife? He's like toxic male wife, right?
I don't think he's male wife.
No,
not even for.
Gideon,
I don't really have
Gideon's
a male
dad.
wife.
I think Gideon the First might be male wife.
Also Magnus, still
Oh
technically
shit! Of course.
in this.
Yeah, Magnus is in this book.
How could I
Magnus is in
fucking
this book.
forget Magnus Quinn? Oh. Let my, whatever Harrow says, let my tongue be struck from my head, let my, my bones be blah, 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 if I ever forget Magnus fucking Quinn. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I've been listening to the Legally Blonde soundtrack on repeat, and I think it may be the platonic case of mansplain, manipulate, male wife. If we ever branch off into being like a movie/musicals podcast.
I feel like Kill James Bond has got that on lock,
Yeah.
Everybody's gaslighting.
Everyone is manipulate/gaslighting. Yeah.
Yep. Everyone is playing like 6 different gambits at once. They're all piling up horribly. No one knows what's going on.
I feel like Wake and Mercy are 2 very different flavors of girl boss.
Technically, I think Yanthe probably is as well, though she's like fail
No.
boss. She's like
She's
cringy
like-
She's
fail.
too young to be girl boss.
Yeah, she's like girl boss in training. Like, she needs to get her MBA and then.
I think God is obviously gatekeep.
Oh, massive,
think.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gatekeeping all of the knowledge of the perfect literal process and how to not be exploded into atoms.
Also, I think just the biggest gaslight, right? Like,
Oh God,
Oh, yeah,
right?
for sure.
yeah. Just,
Oh.
I think there are other examples, but just, yeah.
I had a question. I don't know if this is going to make us run over time, but like, do you guys think when they look at Kithurea's body under the bed, can Yanthe see that? Is she lying to Harrow then?
No, she's lying. Gideon says that she's lying.
But do we
Like-
know that Gideon? Because if Gideon sees what Harrow sees,
Do we
know
I
that
think,
Gideon doesn't see Harrow's hallucinations?
Because Gideon
necessarily?
narrates what Harrow's perception of the body is, and we're pretty sure that the
Yeah.
body does not appear to anyone else.
That's true.
That's true, but also
However, we do know that Wake is genuinely and literally puppeting the body around. So
Yeah.
what other explanation is there for Harrow seeing it?
And where else would it be? The body has to be somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like,
She sees Kithurea's body being moved and things like that. Every time it is real.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's just Yanthe fucking with her for sport.
Yeah.
Yes. I think if the clear answer is Gideon's right and Yanthe's a bitch, then it's like, yeah, that's the solution.
Yeah.
God, that one bit of the narration where Yanthe at the end saves God instead of Augustine is
Oh,
like,
God,
here's Yanthe
yeah.
making the worst choice every time, firmly pressing down the button labelled bad.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yes.
yes, I love women's
Yeah.
wrongs.
Yeah. Also, can I just say, I think she doesn't know where Corona is. She's just like the fact that she said like her reaction to them killing God is, why aren't we evacuating the houses? Are you not going to try? It's because she doesn't know where Corona is. So she can't let God die.
Her one bit of humanity is just, I only care about this one person.
Yeah. Yep. So she can't let God die, because if God dies, then she might never get Corona back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, anyway, sorry, I dragged this back to the like actual plot stuff again.
Right, so let's hold off on a cat rating for this until next time.
Okay.
It's going to be
all
high.
All of the other bullet points that we have yet to address.
I'm calling that now. It's going to be high.
Like, we got to talk about Cam. We got to talk... Oh, my God. There's so much.
Next time.
Guys, so to wrap up the episode then, shall we quickly just say what else have we been reading?
Bold of you to assume I've had room for anything in my brain other than this monster of a book.
I watched The Pit, which is a ER drama. So, emergency medicine. Really, really, really good. Not for you if you don't like gore, but it's just really like phenomenal. It has Noah Wyle being the saddest man alive with his big brown eyes and lots of PTSD. And I've been reading a lot of fan fiction for that, basically.
He does a very good saddest man alive, does Noah Wyle?
Oh my gosh, it's exquisite. I love that show. Like, every single character in that is compelling to me, even the ones who suck.
In a very like modern problems, I've been watching lots of clip compilations of The Pit without actually getting around to watching the actual TV series.
I can heartily recommend it.
I know it's on the list, although I do have problems with gore, so I might have to like look away occasionally. But yeah, it's on the list, but it's on the list behind quite a few things. I still haven't watched Severance. I just can't do TV. It's the issue of like I always want to watch them with my partner, and then like if he's just finding time for the two of us, it's very difficult. Anyway, but what I have been listening to is the Foundation trilogy, because I've been trying to make more use of my library's ebook and e-audiobook service. And the one thing I find I absolutely love it as a service, but it's really difficult to find good stuff in it because they categorize it in completely arbitrary ways.
You were talking about this with Agatha Christie, weren't you?
So I don't think the local library has any ebooks. I think all of their ebook subscription is magazines.
Oh, that's not great.
Yeah, because when I went, I gave up on actually searching for stuff. I won't tell you the whole story because it's like there was a quest. It was long. It was excruciating. I gave in and I bought the book, whatever. But I went in to look and I was like, okay, I won't search for anything. I'll just do the browse whole catalogue. And for the first 3 or 4 pages, it was all magazine subscriptions.
Oh, I wonder if they have the knitting magazines.
Oh, almost certainly, yeah. But I don't think they actually have that many ebooks. Like, all the Agatha Christie they had was, like, individual short stories published as, like, their own, like, standalone things. Anyway, I'm still mad about it. I don't understand it. It's a fucked up system.
That's really sad. So our local one works better than that, and there are more books than that. But it's very like there'll be one Ursula K. Le Guin audio, and this is also it's the audiobook catalogue, which I can understand not being quite as mature. And then there's like only 2 of Octavia Butler, and they're in a series, and like obviously you've got to wait quite a while for the first one. But like so what I've been doing is like sci-fi classics I haven't read and like Hugo Award winners. So I've also listened to what's it? A Dream of Empire? I think that's the name.
Oh, I love that.
A Memory of Empire?
Yes.
A Memory of Empire, that's it. Yes. Yeah. So that was available and I got that. So I'm trying to use that as a shortcut for just like searching for things. And then if you look at a specific book, it normally has good recommendations under the book. But in terms of just looking by categories, like the LGBTQ plus category is very hit and miss. Some books which I have felt close to putting a formal complaint in about, and the sci-fi section is quite good, but also has like about 2 bajillion Doctor Who audiobooks, which 14-year-old me would have absolutely loved and devoured. But currently, I'm just like, I would like to find. I'm sure these are great. I would like to find an actual novel. Like.
Any minute now, please, yes. Library, I'm begging
just
you.
Scroll. It's and there's I can't find a way of like even getting into subcategories. You just have to like straight up search for a title, and it's just it's a rough experience. But
yeah,
but libraries are awesome, and it'll get better. It'll improve over time. So
yeah,
I am as we speak installing the libraries app for our city, which I did not have before. and I'm going to sign up, and I want to see if they've got knitting magazines, because I'm a caricature of myself.
I tell you what, this is kind of fun, is that they do let you just pick, you don't have to, like, provide ID. So I just put my name as Misk. Like, the word Misk. And they let me do that. I'd forgotten I did that until I went in and took in my library card. And they were like, Misk? And I'm like, listen. Listen.
I didn't realise I would have to actually use this as a name.
Yeah.
Okay, Lottie, what have you been reading, listening to, consuming?
I finished the rest of the Hunger Games trilogy.
Oh,
on
nice.
audiobook, which is very good. And I have downloaded Sunrise on the Reaping, so once I
I borrowed that from my library. It's good. I enjoyed it. It's fun.
Yeah, so I'd like to get into that, and obviously next book after the second episode on Harrow, which is Murder at the Vicarage, which I've been listening to, which is very good on audiobook. And it's not garden related, but it is exciting. My courgettes have gone outside, guys. They've been hardened off.
Oh.
Very exciting.
Exciting.
And I have 6 sweet corn plants that have germinated, so I might even be growing a sweet corn.
Whoa!
So,
Excellent.
Very nice.
That's pretty cool.
That's my life.
Welcome to teaching my cat to garden.
Our potatoes have leaves, and the beans are just coming up. You can just about see them. The rhubarb is already massive, and we need to start dealing with it.
Yeah, my rhubarb
eating
is
rhubarb.
had a little bit of roast.
Yeah.
I need to stop making rhubarb crumble. Yeah.
And our courtyard is just full of brambles. Like 2 weeks ago it was empty, and now it's all brambles.
I will say, audiobooks and gardening is absolutely great.
Right, so I think if we're going to wrap it up there, and then we shall do a second episode on Harrow. So thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to follow us so you can get the second part of our Harrow review. If you want to recommend us a book to read, you can do so via our website and also via our social media. So say hello, send us a message, and recommend us some books to read. Big virtual hugs, and we will see you next time. Bye!
Bye.